Are you in the market to purchase a home? Hey, according to Goldman Sachs, home prices might be dropping as much as 22% in the coming year. Good thing for you, we have 6 tips to saving for a new home to get you on track. On today's episode of Breaking It Down, we have a very special guest that's going to show you how to do exactly that. Hey, welcome back to another episode of Breaking It Down. My name's Scott McLean. I'll be your host. Today's topic is tips for saving for a new home. The new report shows that the housing market may be dropping significantly. Lots of reports are out there showing that we're in for a decline in home prices. Are you going to capitalize on that and be ready to purchase your next home? Good thing for you, we have Bright advisor Amy White from Gilbert, Arizona, who's going to share with you tips for purchasing a new home. Amy, are you on the show with us today?
I am. Thanks for letting me join you. I'm super excited to share these tips with our listeners.
Awesome. Amy, so you've got some tips for those people that are considering purchasing a new home.
That is correct. So now that the housing market's finally starting to flatten and hopefully slow down, I think there's going to be a lot of people that have just wanted to purchase a home in the last little while, but have been priced out of the market. And quite frankly, I think this is a great opportunity. I'm not a real estate agent, but I am an investment advisor. And so a lot of my clients are coming to me. I can already hear a few calls. Clients are starting to come to me going, hey, is this a wise financial decision for me? And I think it can be a great decision if you do it the right way. And part of that is making sure that you have a sufficient down payment.
So Amy, I saw your tips that you sent along, and it looks like you've got 5 solid tips for those people that are getting ready to save for a home, and maybe even a bonus tip for those that might have already saved up a little bit. And I'm looking forward to hearing them. What's tip number 1?
All right. So tip number 1 is actually to go through and budget. And I know everybody hates it when I say that because that's literally my number 1 piece of advice. But if you want to be able to go through and save for a home, I mean, think about it, a $500,000 home. That means that if you want to put a 20% down, which is what we recommend, that's $100,000. You're going to have to really, really be budgeting in order to be able to go through and do this. I would recommend going through and doing a percentage-based budgeting system. So what you want to do is go through and set aside a specific percentage based on your income. So the higher you can do, obviously the more money you're going to be able to save, but you have to start by budgeting.
You know, I think budgeting is one of the key ingredients to financial success in all areas of life. It's funny when we've done presentations in the past to employees or to the employees of companies, we ask everyone who likes to budget, and nobody raises their hand, maybe 1 or 2. If we ask everyone who likes to spend money, everyone raises their hand. And so we kind of trick them into it. We're like, well, we're going to show you how to spend money on a plan, AKA budgeting. And then they all kind of like, all right, you tricked us. So you're showing people, so you're showing people how to budget and save their money on a plan to save up for their home. I think that's a good point. What's tip number 2?
Tip number 2 is actually to use a completely separate bank account. And the reason I recommend this is because it's too easy to dig into your money if it's easily accessible. And so I find that a lot of my clients go through and they just attach a savings account to their checking account. And then something happens and they end up just pulling money from that savings account to pay for everything. But if you go through, the old adage, out of sight, out of mind, really applies to your money too. If you put it in a completely separate bank account, you'll be less likely to spend it and it will actually stay in your account.
That's fantastic. I think that's a great strategy. I've experienced that myself. When the money's in the checking account and it's there and available, it tends to get used. When it's in a separate account, it tends to be a little bit better protected. So I like that. What's tip number 3?
Tip number 3 is to automate your savings. And this one should be a no-brainer for everyone. It is so easy now with the way we go through and do payroll. All you've got to do is contact your HR department. Honestly, you can probably do it on your app, your payroll app when you're recording your hours or whatever. But literally just go through and have a set percentage of your payroll put into that new account, the one that you just opened. It is so simple to go through and do that. The other thing I recommend too is anytime you go through and have a certain amount, sweep it over. So let's say that your average spending is $4,000 or $5,000. You end up with an extra, $500 or $600. Instead of just leaving that in your checking account, sweep that into that separate savings account. Get everything out of there you possibly can. Automate it, make it simple.
You know, I have a little bit of inside information that other people might not have, and that is that I've seen your financial planning software, and I've seen you setting
Yes.
up clients in there before, and I know that you have an area where you can set a goal for your client, like a new home, and actually work with
Mhm.
them to start saving towards that and putting money in there automatically, and then reporting with them and helping them by reminding them, hey, you're 28% of the way to the goal, 32% of the way to the goal. And I've seen that in motion. So I don't know where I'm going with this, but I know that it's a good tool, and anyone working with you
Yes.
has access to you helping them reach that goal and ultimately get that home that they're looking for. So just throwing that in
Yes,
there.
that is yes, and I think that's really important for people to understand. I literally have clients that I work with where I reach out to them once a week and are like, "Hey, how are you doing on those savings goals?" Now, obviously, that could be annoying for some people, not everybody wants that, but if that's something that helps you stay accountable and you're my client, I will totally help you do that because this is a good goal. It's worthwhile to save for. And if you need a little help to do it, that's what we're here for.
You can make wealth if you do the housing purchase the right way. And remember, you make your money on the house when you buy it. That's one of the keys right
It's
there.
true.
I'm not a realtor. I'm just throwing out wisdom that I've heard from other experts in the real estate industry. Amy, what's tip number 4?
So, Scott, step number 4 is to cut your expenses. Every dollar that you're able to save is one less dollar you need to earn. And when you're going through and trying to hit a crazy goal like this, you have to go through and work at it from every single angle. You're obviously trying to save money. Well, if you can go through and cut your spending, that makes it so much easier to go through and do this. And when I say cut your spending, this is time to do a scorched earth policy. Like if you have to go through and just cut everything out of your life for 6 months, that's really doable, especially if you've got some long term goal that you're working towards. You may not be able to do this for a year, but short term, I mean, I would go through, stop eating out, get rid of your random credit card charges. Like, you shouldn't be in a mall or a shopping center or anything like that for 6 months. You need to stop spending money on stuff you don't need, in part because, hello, you're about to move. I don't know about you, but moving is a form of torture. I do not want to be moving more stuff than I have to. So, if I can stop spending, I'm hitting my goal in two different ways. So, definitely cut your expenses. Do everything you can to get rid of that.
Amy, I think that's a great point. I might as well go in and throw a plug in here. If you search the BrightWealth channel for budgeting, you'll find that we've done several workshops on budgeting and how to create a
Mhm.
budget. And for those of you that really want to dig in and create a budget, going back to Amy's financial planning software again that I've happened to have seen, there's a whole area for you to connect your accounts and organize all of your transactions by category, and Amy can help you with that budgeting, literally right down to the penny, and show you where your money's going and where you can cut and trim your expenses and ultimately get on track for that goal of yours. Sorry to throw that in there and create more work for you, Amy, but I just happen to know that that's in there.
It's okay. I will survive.
All
That
right.
extra work is worth it if I can help a few more people get into a home. Because
And I
that is one
think
of the
that's one.
single biggest wealth building tools.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the greatest moments of someone's life when they finally got those keys and they're walking into their home, and they're just super excited to have it. They've got a major asset on their hands at that point, and they're using leverage typically, which is a great
Yes.
strategy in finance that we also teach here on Bright Wealth. Amy, this is great information. What's tip number 5?
Tip number 5 is earn extra money with a side hustle. Now, I look at it this way. If you're going to go through and cut your spending, you're not going to be eating out as much. You're not going to be going to the mall. There's a lot of things that you're not going to be doing. So you might as well do something worthwhile with all the extra time that you're going to have. I mean, it can be as simple as going through and being an Uber driver. There's a lot of little things that you can do. But if you can go through and just reserve 5 extra hours, 10 extra hours a week to go through and start earning some extra money, that's where you're really going to start seeing the needle move. Like, it's great to go through and do the auto savings. It's great to cut your budgeting. It's great to do all those things. But for most people, honestly, they need extra income. And so if you can go through and create a side hustle, that's going to be the best way to make sure that you accomplish these goals.
Amy, I think this information is fantastic. It certainly help people break down the complex tasks of organizing yourself, creating a budget, creating separate bank account, cutting your expenses and really getting on track for their goal. You mentioned that there might be, when we were talking earlier, there might be a 6th bonus tip. And I know it's a little bit more complicated, a little more involved, but can you kind of share a little bit about that or give a little bit of insight onto that
Mhm.
one?
Yeah, definitely. So, number six is you got to think outside the box. What you need to be doing is looking at your current assets and your current situation and deciding, are there things I can do? For example, if you have a 401k, maybe it's worth going through and taking out a small 401k loan. Let's say you have a cash value account within a life insurance policy. It may be worth taking out some money from your cash value. You may have other assets that you can go through and sell. For example, maybe you have a extra vehicle, or you have some old property, or just other things that you can go through and sell to go through and put a little bit of more money towards that down payment. The more money you can put towards that down payment, the better off you're going to be.
That's awesome advice. Actually, that's not advice, that's education. Just as a disclaimer for the show, what Amy just said is education. If you want advice, I would encourage you to schedule a one-on-one planning session with her, and then she can give you specific advice to your specific situation. But don't just go cash out accounts without talking to your advisor or to one of the Bright advisors first. Amy, I think that's really good insight. You know, a lot of people fail to look at their existing accounts and how they can convert from one asset to another. Again, great education, great information. I would encourage anyone, if you have specific questions about your scenario and you're looking to purchase a home, to schedule a planning session with the Bright Advisor team. They're standing by to help you and to help give you specific advice and give you clarity of mind and peace of mind and answers to the questions that you might have. Again, this was an educational show, another episode of Breaking It Down. Amy, thanks so much for being on the show again. And as always, my name is Scott McLean. I'm your host. It's not what you make, it's what you do with what you make.